If you've been wanting to buy your first home or your first investment property, I bet you've heard of the term house hacking. House hacking is a method that can be used to buy your first home years sooner than if you didn't use it and save a ton of money. In this video, we're going to look at a live listing right here in Saskatchewan and show how house hacking could be used to save money when buying this house. Before we begin, my name is Finley Macfarlane. I'm a realtor based in Saskatoon with Real Broker, and if you want more info on buying, selling, investing, or relocating inside Saskatchewan, head to my website. The link is in the description. So what is house hacking? Very simply put, house hacking is using rental income from the same house that you're living in to offset your monthly expenses. This can be done in many different ways. The simplest would be you buy a house with 4 bedrooms, you only need one, you have 3 friends who need a place to live, and you let them rent each of the bedrooms from you. You then use that monthly rental income to offset your expenses for living in the house. Another great example, and one that's actually very common right here in Saskatoon, is buying a house with a legal basement suite or a non-conforming one. That would work too. You then live upstairs in the main portion of the house and rent out that basement suite. Once again, using that rental income to offset your monthly expenses. Now, one of my personal favorite examples is what we're going to look at right here, buying a duplex. And this isn't specific to duplexes. This can be done with a triplex, a fourplex, whatever you want to do. However, a duplex is the most realistic for a first-time home buyer in Canada. A duplex is one property that has 2 separate suites or portions in the same property. So with this method, you would buy the whole property, you would live on the right side, and the left side you can rent out for a higher rental amount than a basement suite would be. Once again, using that rental income to cover your expenses. So let's take a look at an actual example of a listing live in Saskatoon right now. All right, so let's start from the beginning. Step 1, talk to a realtor and they'll set you up with a mortgage broker to get pre-approved for a mortgage, or go straight to your broker or your bank if you already have one. This will let you know what your budget is for your house. Step 2 is talk to a realtor to go through a consultation on how the home buying process actually works in your specific area. In other words, just send me a text or give me a call. From there, we can determine what your criteria is, your must-haves and your wants, and then start to filter through properties based on those and then start touring them. So that's where the fun part begins. We're going to start finding properties that might work for you. That's what I've already done here. So this listing is located in Silverwood Heights, right here in Saskatoon. It is a duplex, like I was mentioning before, listed at $559,900. If you're unfamiliar with Saskatoon, Silverwood Heights is a great neighborhood. So let's start getting info on the place. We see that it is a total of 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, meaning that each side of the duplex has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And now we'll start to take a look through the pictures. I will preface this by saying I have not seen this property in person, so I don't know what type of maintenance or repairs it needs. So we're not going to be able to factor that into our purchasing expenses. But looking through the pictures, it looks like it's holding together, not in horrible shape. It needs a bit of a clean, but in good shape. Okay, so now let's see what your monthly expenses would be like to own this house, and then after doing so, what they would be if you live in one side and rent out the other one. All right, so first things first, we're going to head over to my rental spreadsheet. If you want a copy of this, head to my website and you can find one there for free. First thing we'll do is input the amount of units and the rental income that we're getting. So like I said, to start, we're going to start by just looking what it would cost for you to buy your own house at this price without being able to rent anything out. So your property taxes, which I pulled from the listing, are $4,881 per year. Your insurance, I'm estimating at $2,000 per year. Utilities, I'm estimating at $3,000 per year or $500 per month. Repairs and maintenance, we're going to budget $2,000 a year for repairs and maintenance. So in this scenario, your total operating expenses each month are $1,240. Now let's talk about mortgage payment. What I like to do is head over to the CMHC mortgage calculator. We are a first-time home buyer. We're buying an existing property. Here's the purchase price once again. Down payment, I'm using the minimum down payment. So if it's a house that you're going to live in, you can put down the minimum of 5% on the first $500,000, so $25,000 there, and then 10% of this remaining $59,900. So your down payment would be right here, just about $31,000. Since you're putting less than 20% down, you have your mortgage loan insurance cost, which is right here. This can get added into your mortgage, so you just pay it monthly on top of your mortgage payment. That way you don't have to come up with another $21,000 cash right at the start. Now, keep in mind when you're purchasing, you're also going to have closing costs. Typically, you want to budget around 1 to 1.5% of the purchase price, so another $5,500 to be safe. That includes things like your home inspection, your legal fees, your title transfer fees, mortgage fees, things like that. Unfortunately, there isn't really any way around those unless you have a really, really good realtor and you're able to get the seller to cover them for you. Send me a message if you want that done. Now, for amortization, we're saying 25 years, monthly payments at a 3.9% interest rate. With that being said, our monthly mortgage payment would come out to just under $2,900 per month, which is steep. So back to our spreadsheet right here, I inputted all the same information that we just looked at. And your mortgage payments, $2,863 per month. That brings your total expenses to $4,100 per month. And right here as well, you can see your total amount that's going out each month is $4,103. Now let's look at it with renting out one side of the duplex. So, like I said, it's a 3-bedroom unit with 2 bathrooms and a garage. If we're going to be conservative, let's say we can rent that out for $1,900 per month. That's currently what one of the units is rented out for, so it's not even speculation. You honestly, in this neighborhood, probably could get that even higher, but we'll be conservative and we'll say we're going to rent it out for $1,900 per month. The next thing we'll do is look at our expenses again. So property taxes are going to stay the same. Obviously, your tenant isn't paying those. Insurance will stay the same. Your tenant isn't paying that. However, utilities, you can likely, especially if they're only paying $1,900 in rent, you can structure the rental agreement so that they're covering 50% of the total utilities for the building. So we'll cut this in half down to $1,500 per year or $250 per month. And repairs and maintenance, we're still going to be budgeting the same amount. Now, your total operating expenses have come down $250 per month for the portion of the utilities that the tenant is now covering. So your total operating expenses now are $990. Now back to the mortgage. This is going to stay the exact same. Ignore this 20%. We're doing the minimum down payment like I mentioned previously. The nice thing about house hacking like this is since you're going to be living in one of the units, you can still do that minimum down payment and get the mortgage insurance on it. So your mortgage payments are going to be staying the same, meaning that your total expenses only came down $250 per month because the tenant is now covering half of the utilities. However, if you remember before, our total monthly cash that we were putting out to live in the house was above $4,000. Now that the tenant is covering half of the utilities and you're collecting $1,900 in rent for the unit of the property that you weren't living in to begin with, your total cash that you're putting out each month now is right around $2,000. So it gets cut in half. So that's a perfect example of how house hacking can work in Saskatoon. I'm not saying that these numbers are good or bad. This isn't my listing, so I'm not really allowed to say anything. Although $2,000 a month, I do understand that is still expensive. However, it was $4,000 before you had part of it rented out. So that's an example of a listing that's on the market right now, right here in Saskatoon that you could house hack. Thanks for watching. And if you're in Saskatchewan and you want to buy, sell, relocate here, or invest in property right in the province here, go to my website, www.finmacrealty.com. The link is in the description below. I have a bunch of free guides and free resources on there, and you can contact me straight through the website.